Hello, I am CohhCarnage and welcome to the Intel Streamers Bootcamp. Today we're going to be talking about how different game genres have varying hardware demands and how an Intel Core i7 processor can help. When streaming, you need a variety of equipment to keep your stream running well. Things like a gaming rig with an Intel Core i7 processor, a stable internet connection, usually between 2 and 5 megabytes up, but really as much as you can get, a Twitch.tv account, which you can get at Twitch.tv. Content that you'd like to stream. Now we could do an entire show on that, but really starting with a game that you like or a genre that you like can really lead to your stream being more focused and your viewers having a better time. Also, XSplit or OBS streaming software. Different types of games place different demands on your system. A high frame rate might not always be necessary for a smooth streaming experience. High motion games will benefit the most from a high frame rate, as there will be more visual information per second vital to gameplay. Shooters and fast-paced action games are going to benefit from the higher frame rates the most. Lower frame rates or dropped frames could result in highly critical split-second mistakes. If you find your stream stuttering, a higher FPS can be achieved using a lower resolution. Low motion games may not be as fast-paced and streams might not necessarily benefit from the higher FPS. Card games, simulations, puzzle, and indie games fall under this category. These games are probably more focused on your machine's ability to run complex equations than intense graphics. If you're not pushing a lot of graphical details, you can use a higher resolution when you stream. You can achieve a lower bitrate for streaming by balancing the FPS and resolution. To understand the relationship between FPS resolution and bitrate, we can look at a formula like this. Width times height times FPS times bits per pixel divided by 1000 is your bitrate. Now I know that most people aren't going to dive into this math, but it's a handy equation to know in case you do really want to dive down into it and figure out exactly where all this data is going. For bits per pixel, for instance, Twitch recommends 0.1 and suggests the bitrate to be no higher than 3500. It's an important number as well, as partnered streamers can generally not broadcast that much more data to Twitch. A higher bit per pixel number can increase the quality of your stream, but can come at a cost of a higher bitrate. And that means that you and your viewer will need a higher connection speed. Higher FPS will also increase the bitrate, so going from 30 to 60 will mean more data required. It's important to inspect each aspect of your stream in order to give you and your viewer the best experience. An Intel Core i7 processor can really help in this process, especially in the cases of complex game physics and artificial intelligence. When streaming on Twitch, unfortunately you can run into many different problems. There's a variety of fixes you can use for these, and sometimes the same fix will work for different problems. However, it's important to know what to do when these problems occur. One of the first issues you can run into is dropped frames. Dropping frames is when your computer is processing frames at a speed that you cannot transmit in time. What the broadcaster will see is pretty much nothing except generally an indicator that they're dropping frames. However, the viewer will see a stuttery stream, stops, pauses, and really just a whole bunch of things that lead to a very poor viewing experience. Drop frames can be fixed by checking your internet for consistency and also lowering the frames and resolution to a point where your CPU can adequately process them. Drop frames are one of the biggest issues on Twitch, and some broadcasters fight the issue for their entire life while streaming. Another issue they can run into is low or unstable FPS. This can happen especially when you're trying to run extremely high-end games on a computer that is also doing the heavy lifting of streaming. Playing with your settings as well as adjusting how much CPU usage is being used while streaming can help fix the lower unstable FPS issue. Also is poor stream quality. A lot of times, if your stream isn't set up properly, not only will your stream be pixelated or look kind of blurry at times, but also may suffer from stuttering and other issues that look like lower unstable FPS or even drop frames, but really are just setting issues. Making sure that your OBS or XSplit is properly tuned so that it is using as much of the CPU as it can greatly help your stream quality. Also, upping your bit rate can generally help this issue as well, if that's an option. Another issue that can happen is poor game performance. Poor game performance generally happens when your computer is trying too hard to do multiple things at once, such as streaming and showing off a high-end game. Poor game performance can generally be fixed by going into your game settings and lowering or tweaking them to a point where you are streaming properly without any drop frames and having a solid frame rate in whatever game you're playing. For more Intel Streamers Bootcamp videos, take a look at the links at the end of this video. Check back often for newly released topics on how to better your streaming and creator experience. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you again soon.